to do what fuels you best and steward your time and your energy well, however that looks. And have fun, enjoy doing it, for sure. That's it.
Let's
go.
Oh, you gotta watch it.
Let's get it.
Get ready to get inspired. This is the Go4TheGoldy podcast.
Hey, it's Wednesday, May 12th, 2021. Welcome to episode 35 of the show. Today I'm joined by a self-proclaimed professional runner and ElliptiGo athlete, Amanda Ghent. Amanda, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, thanks. I'm doing well, but I would love to say that I am a professional recreational runner.
Professional recreational. I thought I said it, but I may have missed it. But yes, I love that term. That was like the first thing you ever said to me, and I'm like, I want to steal that and start calling myself that too. So let's just start kicking off with a quick intro about yourself. You know, first and foremost, I mean, let the people know who you are and what you do beyond a professional recreational runner.
Yeah, so I am Amanda, and I am married with 2 kids and live in South Carolina, where I grew up, my hometown. I went off to college, came back, and have stayed here ever since. And I do all sorts of things. I love to stay busy. My main title, if I were to be given one, would be Spanish teacher. So I teach Spanish. I've taught it from preschool age all the way up to high schoolers, and currently spend most of my time with teenagers now and teach privately to homeschooled families or tutoring because we have some Spanish schools in the area. So I do that. I also am a musician. I play the violin, and so that's kind of my side gig to the side gig, and teach private lessons and play weddings and all sorts of events and festivities. And then I love to be active. So, of course, running falls into that category. And then most recently, the ElliptiGo. So mother, wife, teacher, musician, athlete, all those wrapped up in one.
Wow, we have a lot to get to because I'm interested. Now, it makes sense that when we did like the sound check in the beginning, you started counting in Spanish, so it definitely makes sense why you were counting to 5.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you from South Carolina, and I saw your profile, Rock Hill. Is that right?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, that's. I used to live in Charlotte.
Just below Charlotte.
Yeah, I was in. I was there for 3. So check it out. So this tattoo right here, if you look, how do I get the angle? Right, here we go. If you see the crown at the top, it's the city of Charlotte's logo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Queen City in all her glory.
Yeah. So I was there for 3 years. I love it down there. Yeah. Rock Hill had a really good football team, I think, right? Isn't there a high school football team?
Yeah, I think we're called the Football City USA, maybe is what we might be called. We've tons of college stars and pro football players have come out of, which was 1 high school, now 2 high schools, and now 3 high schools produce some really good ballers. So,
I remember that. City. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Very cool. So before we get into like the sports stuff, when you mentioned that you're a musician and you play the violin, I love that. So obviously you've been playing for a very long time. If you're doing that as like a side gig, has that been like a whole lifelong kind of thing?
Yeah, somebody asked me the other day how long I've been playing, and I kind of got a little embarrassed. But I think if I recall correctly, it would be 26. I would just have finished year 26.
Wow.
Or however it works. I started playing in middle school. Played the piano for a little bit in elementary school and hated it. I was forced to do it. Of course, my mom knew better. And then I went to an orchestra concert, and I remember like totally making fun of the conductor. But I was captivated by the musicians and just said, hey guys, mom, dad, this is what I want to do. And so I just stuck with it and studied privately in high school, and then went off to college and got some substantial scholarship and did a minor in music. I didn't major because I didn't want to take history. So,
Interesting.
forwent those classes and just played, and I loved it. So I'm classically trained, but love kind of the ad lib style. Not so much folk, like twangy country stuff necessarily. I'm more of like the pretty melodic sounds that kind of flow out. So yeah, I played with a couple of orchestras right out of college, but that lifestyle's not for me at all. So I just enjoy. I play at church pretty much every week with the worship team there, and then weddings when they happen. So yeah.
Now you said.
And
Oh, I was going to say that you said. I think you mentioned that you went away for college, right?
yeah, I did.
And where did you go to college?
I went to a super
Sorry.
Erskine College. It's this teeny tiny, small private liberal arts college in due west, South Carolina. So literally, it's due west of the center of the state. And I graduated high school with like 462 people. I went to college, and my whole student body was like 428.
What?
So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so my high school graduating senior class was larger than the entire student body population at my college. So that tells you how small it was. It was a place where you would go to class on Tuesday, Thursday, and then you would have dinner with your professor and his family on Sunday night.
Wow.
Just a unique place, and I studied Spanish there with a couple of different professors, and ended up being able to study abroad in Madrid for a while. But my time there was amazing. I was never one to like be a part of a big city. I love the big city, but I was glad I didn't choose that for my college experience. So yeah, they never had a violinist at the time I was there, so they hired an instructor to come in during my 4 years there. And when I graduated, he left, and I don't think they've had a violinist specializing in music performance ever since I was there.
That's incredible. What a story. Wow, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm going to put my fiance on the spot here. I also, so I'm nowhere near you whatsoever. I say this a million times, to friends and family, but I'm the kind of person who I wish I could just live a million different lives, because I have so many different interests that I just don't have the time to pursue. And music was one of those. I chose sports instead of music at college, and I wanted to. I grew up playing the piano, like you, and I think there's definitely the value in learning how to have your hands think independently of each other, because then if you nail the piano, not obviously other instruments aren't easy, but it's like, you could pick up, you understand the concept of the other instruments a lot easier, and so I love music a lot, and my love is the trombone. I have one here, and it's I live in an apartment, so it's tough to just blast the trombone and not have your neighbors want to kill you. Especially in Texas, everyone's got guns, so I'm not trying to piss anybody off. But for
The trombone's pretty strong, yeah.
Yeah, it's loud. And I had this like really, maybe it's not a unique idea, but I had this idea that I wanted to start a duet with me and my fiance, because my fiance is a violinist. So I got her a violin for Valentine's Day. And I had the idea of, like, if we bought piano music, I could play the bass, because the trombone's bass clef, and then she could play the melody on the violin. I thought that'd be kind of like a unique sounding, we tried it and it sounded kind of cool, but like we didn't, we were pretty rusty. But if she was looking to get back into it, what advice would you give? What advice would you give to her? Because she played in high school, she's really good, it started to come back, but like, what advice would you give to someone who wants to get back into it? Are there like Are you part of like any clubs or anything like that?
So, no, I'm not. And honestly, I feel like there isn't like a niche social media wise for people like me. Like you have your all in, musicians that's what they do for their life, and then you just have like the people that like used to know how to play, and then you have people that still play but aren't like in the scene 24/7. And so I don't even know that I have a connection that way, but what I would tell her is that the best way to get back into it for her own personal use is to pick up a book of like etudes. There's Wolfhart, Wolfhart, I think, and Kreutzer, Kreu, something like that. It's German. There's books of etudes, and it's the same thing with like running. Like if you want to get back into it, you start practicing like drills, and then you do like short intervals, and that's what etudes are. They're just little practice pieces of music, and they get your fingers back into shape so that you're used to moving and then building up calluses again. And then working on all sorts of techniques like bowing patterns or dynamics or key changes and finger placements. So all of that. Those two are my favorite. I don't have them sitting right here, but I can always send them. Kreutzer and Wolfhart etudes.
Well, I just wrote those down, and her birthday is coming up June 1st, and I know she doesn't listen to this ever, so I know I'm not spoiling anything, so thank you.
I can send you the link or at least a screenshot of them.
Yes, please do, because that's I like that a lot. All right, cool. So that was a perfect segue, though, the comparison that you made about running, because I definitely want to talk to you about that, because that's how we ran into each other. That's how we met. So we're both a part of the On Run crew, and you reached out to me and said, when I was asking if anyone would be interested in coming on, and your story is really cool. So why don't you go ahead and kind of tell us, just a brief overview about your running, how you got into it, and because I know you said you were a late bloomer, you were haven't been like a lifelong type runner, right?
Right, yeah. So I never chose movement ever at all. Growing up as a kid, I just like made mud pies. I rode my bike, but I was never sports inclined. I couldn't throw anything. There was zero eye, hand, foot coordination. I just kind of stuck to the books and stuck to my music. And then kind of followed through that with college, and then actually my junior year, after returning home from studying abroad, I just created a pattern and a series of disordered eating, and was fully diagnosed with an eating disorder my junior year in college. And
wow.
I had begun to take up excessive movement at that point, but all I did was walk. I walked everywhere on my campus. I walked morning, afternoon, night. I probably ended up walking like 12 miles a day, power walk at that, in an effort to, lose weight and be more comfortable in my body. And so that went on for a series of time. And then one day I was like, you know what? I think I would sweat just as much, and it would take as much time if I ran instead of walked. And so, of course, I tried it, and I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, but I felt horrible. And so I think it was really from that moment of, like, wanting to get it done faster but accomplish the same goal that I realized I can't keep doing that unless I fuel my body. So you can walk almost unending. You could just go forever and ever, but when you're running, it just takes so much extra energy. And so I really credit counseling, psychiatry, intervention, help of good friends in the support system, but also running to kind of push me out of the eating disorder, that true phase that I was in at the time. And because if I wanted to run, I had to eat. And so that was helping me do that. But I would really say that I dabbled in running from that, I guess it was spring of my senior year in college, really on up to, 5 years ago. Like, I could put on running shoes and I could go for a run. And if there was a town race, I might pop in, but it wasn't anything that was like I just accomplished this great thing. I took a very long season off when I was pregnant and had my kids. I would probably say like 6 or 7 years where it was never something I wanted to do. Like being pregnant, it was really taboo at the time to exercise like that while you were pregnant. Like you just didn't do that. That would obviously hurt the baby. And I know now, like, there's so many women pregnant who continue to move through their pregnancies, which I think is so awesome to see.
Yeah.
That just wasn't around 12 years ago. And then after having them, I was exhausted. Like, the last thing I wanted to do was put my kids in a double stroller and push it up a hill. It did nothing for me. And so my youngest daughter turned 4 in the summer of 2016, and I was like, you know what? I'm ready. I'm going to get back into it. And so I committed to doing a sprint triathlon and learned how to ride a real bike, which I was horribly fearful of. I did not know how to swim, so I had to teach myself how to swim. And over the course of the summer, fell in love with running again, completed the sprint triathlon, and after that, August, I would say it's all been history since then. I got coaches, started learning about all the different types of training, finding the best gear, whether it was apparel or shoes or, technology, whatever it was. And so kind of have been at it, I would say pretty hardcore, since 2016, 2017. So I was 34, 33 at the time. So yeah, I would say late bloomer for sure. I didn't start when I was in 5th grade, and I didn't go to junior nationals or anything, but I've enjoyed the season in my older days and just seeing what can I do. Like, it's really hard. Can I get faster? Can I get stronger? Can I run longer? What kind of goals can I set? What's reasonable? What's feasible? And what's just really outlandish? And so kind of have a good bit of fun figuring all of that out. You know what?
Everything that you just said, man, I mean, that is exactly like, okay, so this show started off as, it started off as I just wanted to talk to people that are doing like really cool, high-level amateur stuff, because like what you were saying about the violin, I think exactly applies to sports, where there is a niche where people want to compete at really high levels, not professionally, but not just like I want to go, jog a 5K either. I think there's I don't think, I know there is, because I've interviewed 34 different people before you that also do this as well, and not this exactly, but like I have a guy who's he's a 60-year-old bodybuilder. I talked to a guy who got into inline speed skating at 40 years old. And my goal is to like talk to people exactly like yourself that really, I have so many friends that like turn 25 and they're just like, well, this is it, time to write it out. And you're like, it's like, what? That's unbelievable to me. And when you said, I want to see what's possible, what my limits are, what's outlandish. For me, I love that idea of like, well, I'm going to go for the outlandish, because even if I don't get the craziest goals that I set, I'm going to do something cool on the way, I mean, there is so much that I can't. Okay, so your story is very, very similar to mine. I connected with you on that for sure, because I didn't get into running until I was 29. So I hated running. I used to go, my fiance, I'll tell you, I drive around, like when you're driving, I would look at people running and be, look at these idiots. Like, they're miserable. Do you ever see someone running smiling? Like, they're just putting them, and I used to tell her that. And every time I run now, she just like, she reminds me, she's like, remember, you used to make fun of these people. Now you're one of them. But so, I mean, that, first of all, I appreciate you opening up about, where originally you got into running. It sounds like you had a pretty unhealthy relationship with, activity and your weight and all that stuff. And I know that's never easy to deal with. So I appreciate you opening up about that. And I just love stories about sports providing a positive, a positive turn on people's lives, and so that part of your story, I mean, is definitely very, very inspiring to, I'm sure, many, many people. So I appreciate that. But my question is, like, so running all of a sudden became like I could double the effort in half the time. So, it's going to kind of force me to eat now. It seems like a quantum leap just be like, 5 years later, I'll just jump into a triathlon. So, like, what made you want to do a triathlon? Where did that come from?
I think it was one of those, if I'm going to do something, it needs to be hard enough for me to keep working at it. And at the time, my father-in-law, he was really into triathlons. Like, he never did a full Ironman. He did up to a half Ironman, and he loved it. And I loved the concept of switching gears, literally and, metaphorically too, like being in the pool, then hopping on a bike, and then running. And I thought, well, a sprint triathlon, I can run a 5K, but can I swim and bike? And then the daunting task of I've got to teach myself how to do these things. It became something that fueled and powered me every day of that training. And it just kind of was like the goal. I just got to get there, and I'm going to do it. And I've never done one since. And who knows if I will or not again. The sit-down bike really just scares the poop out of me. But it was in that training that, like, I would get off my brick workouts, I'd hop off the bike, and I would run that first mile like 7 seconds faster than I did 2 weeks ago. And it just kind of kept growing like that. And I thought, well, maybe there's something to this. Like, am I really going as fast as I really could go? So I shot for the stars. I didn't really think, like, shoot your shot at the time. That's a big saying you hear now, like, just go for it. I didn't think that. I was like, I'm just going to do something wild and crazy. So I knew my family would back me up since they were really into triathlon. So it is what it is.
I love that.
One and done, I think.
I love that. So, I mean, a little bit about my story. It's, like, very similar, but I had a swimming background, so I always admire people. So in high school, I was a sprinter. I swam middle school and elementary, middle, and high school. But I've always been a sprinter. So the idea of, like, swimming a half mile, that was like a crazy idea to me. But at least I knew how to swim. Do you know what I mean? It's like that skill translates. You just do it slower and for longer, But I always give credit to people like you who, never learned really how to swim with the correct form and technique and breathing and all that stuff to just hop into triathlon at a later age. I mean, I always find that crazy impressive. So how did you get into, like, the swimming part of it? Did you watch a lot of, like, YouTube videos, or did you just hop in the pool and figure it out yourself, or what was that like?
I definitely watched YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And I remember one day I was at the pool, and there was a girl in the lane next to me, and she looked like she knew what she was doing. And so I stopped her when she was taking a break, and I was like, hey, I just really need some help. Is there anything I can help you on if you helped me? And so we kind of bartered and kind of did some, like, maybe you ought to run this way or XYZ, And so we kind of traded brief services. And then I continued to watch YouTube videos about turning. I never got the turn down until just recently, like within the last year. But all I had to swim was 800 meters, and it was a 50-meter pool. So you do the math, but it was in the pool, and I had never swam in the pool with more than, like, 3 people before. So the masses of being in the pool with, like, 20 people in a lane at a time, that was not cool. I was about ready to just, like, doggy paddle and tread my way to the finish. But my girls actually now swim, or they have in the past, and so I've just been watching them too. Like, how do I make my form better? Am I doing something the right way? Am I dragging something so it's holding me back, or am I breathing well? But it's one of those things that some days I want to go do it, and then seasons go by and I haven't been in the pool. Now, I haven't been in the pool since probably February of last year, but
See,
I'll get back in there.
I tell people all the time, this is what drives me nuts about sprint triathlon, because I guess similar to you, you said you're a competitive. You don't do it to just for the sake of doing it. You like that thrill of like, I got 7 seconds faster, or maybe what about 8 seconds? Is 8 seconds possible? How about 9? Where does that end? And I'm addicted to that feeling too. And I don't know if you experienced this, but like, I always, it drives me nuts when people are like, when I say I'm a triathlete and they're like, oh, so, that's like the crazy, you do it all day, and I'll say, no, I'm a sprinter and it's a half-mile swim, typically 12.5-mile bike and a 5K. And the first thing people say is like, I can do that. And that just drives me nuts is like, yeah, I could go walk a marathon, but it doesn't mean I'm going to, go be in the Olympics. It's just because you can do something doesn't mean that, like, I haven't trained my freaking ass off every day for this damn sport, and I'm, like, committed to being the best I possibly can. Did you ever experience that when people ask you, like, when you're triathlon, that disappointment of, like, oh, you don't do Ironman? It's like, what is that about,
Well, or the opposite, they'd be like, oh my gosh, you're going to do an Ironman, and I'd be like, no, I'm not. It's going to take me maybe an hour and a half, and then I'm going to be done. But yeah, like even doing that, I went into it thinking I might have a shot at being on the podium. No, I didn't. But of course, the inside of me was like, I've trained hard enough. I know how to swim. I can ride my bike. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to blast everybody on the run. And I did well on the run, and I learned and have been learning that most triathletes don't win a race in the pool or in the open water swim.
Yeah.
They really win it on the bike.
Yeah.
And if something goes wrong on the bike, they can make up for it in the run and totally wax everybody. So
yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I have any desire to do the Ironman thing for sure. No.
I was just telling my fiance, I think, like, how do I put this? I want to do it out of spite. Just so I can say, yeah, I did one and it sucked and I didn't like it. You know what I mean? Like, I want to just to shove it, you know what I mean? Be like, I did it and it sucked and I'm doing this. Because
yeah.
I'm addicted to the sprints. I mean, yeah. I just went to Virginia last weekend and I qualified for the U.S. age group team. So I'm doing, we're going to Bermuda for the World Championships in October. So I'm pretty excited about that, but like it even makes it more demeaning when people are like, yeah, thank you. But it even makes it like more demeaning when people are just like, oh, I could do that. Oh, could you really just go out and do that, So with so I'm really excited to learn about this ElliptiGo here. So first of all, for those who are just listening, behind her, she has is that called an ElliptiGo, or is the sport called ElliptiGo? Like, let's fill everybody in here because I have no idea about any of this.
So this is an ElliptiGo 8C long stride stand-up cycle. ElliptiGo is the company that has marketed several bike models that are seatless. So there is no place for me to sit down on this contraption over here. There is a mountain stand-up bike, so it looks like a mountain bike with, your 26-inch wheel, like knobby tires. That has no seat. There is a like standard stand-up bike with just regular road tires. Kind of looks like a road bike, but just no seat. This is a long stride, and the long strides are a little bit unique because they have platforms with load wheels that are underneath the foot pedals, and so it actually mimics more of a runner's stride. So it's super helpful, particularly for runners in cross training or recovery or rehab, or used to be runners who can't do it anymore because of a surgery or some kind of something ailment. They can hop on this, and it rides similarly to a bike, though it is very different because you are standing up. So ElliptiGo is the company, but they do market several different makes and models. This particular long stride, it comes in 3 different models. They have a 3C, which is a 3-geared. The 8, of course, is 8 gears, and then they have an 11, which is a little bit different of a frame with handlebars that fold down, and then 11 gears for climbing. Those are best for your hillier spaces. 8 is what I've got, and I love it. It's perfect for my area. I don't go on the trails with it, obviously, but it's not super flat here either. It's got some hills, so it's helpful for climbing. But yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, today is my 1-year anniversary of having it in my possession. So
wow, what an occasion!
All about how it happened, and I know, right? I can tell you whatever you want to know. So ask, and I will be happy to share.
Okay, I want to know everything. Okay, so first of all, let's get into the beginning. How did you get into this? Did you look at it and say, I got to do this? Or you said you were injured, right? And then you were looking kind of for something to fill that need of running? Or how did you originally get into that?
Sure. So take you back to the summer of 2019. I went to adult running camp with the ZAP running group. They're actually an on team. They basically stick to long distances, marathons, halves, and I think a couple are showing up, running some 10Ks and 5Ks, trying to make some Olympic qualifying times. I know one of them's headed to Grandma's soon in June, but I was there for their adult running camp, and a sports, I forget his full title. He does a lot of sales to the colleges all across the country, and he is in Raleigh, and he came to the running camp to show us the ElliptiGo bikes, because a lot of the ZAP athletes use ElliptiGo for cross training and for rehab purposes. And so he showed up, I met him, I was like, oh, that's cool, really neat, not for me, I don't do bikes. And then we got reconnected at CIM later that year in December, and he just kind of shared his story. He wasn't a salesman, but he just told me what his training had looked like. He ended up running 254 maybe.
Wow.
At CIM. I might have that wrong, but it very incredible time for him. And his training was something like 30 miles of running, and then half or more time was spent on the bike.
Really?
And
oh,
so
that's
you think
interesting.
About somebody to run a marathon that quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was just a super interesting concept. He was really only doing like a workout, an easy run, and a long run, and then everything else was on the bike, because he was generally more prone to injury, like with his feet or ankles, and so him being on the bike was less impact. And so I got really curious, but again, it's an investment. It wasn't for me. Fast forward to COVID and quarantine, and I get a phone call last May, and it was, I needed to, there was a gal who had purchased it, and something wasn't going to work out, or I can't really remember, but the friend, the sales guy, said, hey, you want to take a look at it? I should have known that I'd fall in love with it. So I brought it home, rode it, and literally within like a week, I had bursitis in my knee, so I couldn't run. I legitimately could not move forward, but I could get on the ElliptiGo. So I ended up, probably for 6 weeks, 100% of my run training was on the ElliptiGo. So that meant easy runs turned into easy bike rides. Running workouts turned into workouts on the go. Long runs turned into long rides. And I just kind of equated the time I'd be spending on my feet. You know, if I was going to run 5 miles, I'd probably spend 45 minutes on the ElliptiGo. And realized really quickly that I was not losing any fitness whatsoever. I had zero impact to my knee, so I was healing my knee while moving. And when I got back to running, it was like I hadn't skipped a beat. So I was completely convinced and haven't turned my back since then. So it was just intriguing and very interesting, the concept of how you could cross train and it wasn't a bike. I hated bikes, remember?
Yeah,
I learned how to rode a bike, decided never again. And I've been able to ride, I guess the furthest ride has been like 50 miles, so just under 4 hours. And then it's a bike that you can take outside, but I also have the trainer, the stationary trainer, so I can stay inside. Today it was like 49 degrees in May in South Carolina, pouring down rain. I hopped on the bike, never had to get soaking wet and become a stronger runner because of it. Instead, I just rode the bike inside, and it's a killer workout, like drenched with sweat at the end. So many advantages. First of all, you don't have to sit down. I don't know about you, when you do your sprint triathlons, 12 miles on your tush still is uncomfortable. I don't know what kind of pads or what kind of cream you use, it's still not fun.
That's true.
Right?
That's true. That's right. Yep.
So, and nothing goes numb, ever. Yeah. Nothing goes numb. So that to me is great. I actually feel more stable standing up than I do if I were on your traditional bike. It's a little bit larger, so on the road I feel like it screams like, hey, watch out for me, because it's big. It's not a tiny contraption. Their data says that it actually is like 33% more effective in burning calories, because it is a full body workout, because there's core, there's stability up top. Obviously you're using, it's more of like a hamstring, glute work instead of heavy quad like riding a bike would. But yeah, it came into my life haphazardly after wanting one, and then after discovering how great it was, I just dove right in, and I was like, this is mine. And ended up getting injured again, actually twice since. Ended up with COVID, couldn't run, but I was able to keep low heart rate resistance on the bike. So it literally has saved my training. Again, I don't think I've lost much fitness at all, because it keeps me engaged.
Yeah.
And it keeps me from running all of the miles. You know, I am getting older, and I can't run 70-mile weeks anymore, but I can run 30 and then the equivalent of 40 on the bike. It's really magnificent.
Wow. So is it on the indoor? Is it? I was going to ask you, are they paying you well? Working for them? Has that going well for you?
Actually, currently no. I love it. I don't get paid to love it, but hopefully you've seen on my platform, like, there are things that I love, and I genuinely love them, and I want to share them. Sometimes we get cool gigs, like being a part of the on-run crew. And yeah, I'm a self-proclaimed goer, and I will claim that I work for them. I don't know, maybe that there's something in the future for that, but having the friend of mine who is the sales guy, he has been the number one go-to to answer anything and everything that I need to know. Because I wasn't a bike person, I don't know much about them, and so I feel like I'm learning a whole new lingo of, you know, cables and calipers and tire pressure and what tread should look like, and how to use an Allen key wrench thingy. I don't even know what those are called. But yeah, not working for them yet, but I do appreciate and value what they keep doing. So, and it's serving such a community. It's not just me. You know, you've got people like Molly Seidel, Molly Huddle too. I could Alphine, some of our marathon ladies that are going, you know, to the Olympics. You get a ton of pro athletes using it, because it is a great tool for recovery or rehab if you are suffering through injury and can't handle the volume of the running miles. It's also really popular in like the 50 to 70 5-year-old group. I have the data, but I'd be willing to say that that's a large portion of consumers, because the older we get, the harder our bodies are to move and do those things. But if we still want to be active, how do we do that?
Yeah.
And there's a whole community of goers that we are called, but it's such a fun community to be a part of.
I think that is. I'm so intrigued by all this. So, on it right now, and you're behind you. Is it on the trainer? Like, is it set up for you to just like train indoor right now?
Yes. Do you want me to? Are you wanting me to show you how it works?
Of course I am. Yes, I am.
Okay. So yeah, it is on the trainer, and it's really easy to take on and off. Usually, I would wear shoes, because you don't want to do it without shoes. But I don't have. Oh wait, I actually do. They're right here.
Now, is that one or two wheels that's on the back there?
It's just one. The upper one, the upper circular thing you see right there, that's the gear. So it has an internal hub. So the gears change on the inside. From what I know, there aren't like what do you call it? I don't. It's a funny word. I can't pronounce it. Maybe starts with a D. I don't know. How you have all the chains and the gear thingies on the outside of a real bike. This one has an internal hub. So gears change on the inside, which means I can actually shift gears. Like I can go from gear 8 all the way down to gear 1 without pedaling through it.
Oh, okay.
Which is super helpful at a stoplight. If I need to shift down, I can just go ahead and shift and nothing moves and we're all set to go. It also helps me because it's less things I have to worry about and like to be right and aligned together. So I have the resistance set and I can use the gears as I very well please. One, of course, is the easiest. Hop on, and then you just go. And I can click up and get to a heavier gear. It gets kind of loud. But at this point, it's like I'm climbing. I'm easily moving at like a 7 to 10% incline. So when I was training for the World Championships, I did a ton of my training on the stationary, and just kept it in gear 8 the whole time. And would just ride and ride and ride and ride until I couldn't ride anymore. You can do sprint workouts. You can lower the gear. Of course, you're flat on the trainer, but you can increase gears to make it feel like you're climbing or descending, sprinting. Really, any run workout has translated to this extremely well. Today, I did 20-minute intervals. So I did an easy 20, I did a hard 20, I went moderate 20, hard 20, and then an easy cool down.
You know when you start to when you start to explore something and you open one door and it opens like 10 more doors and then you enter one of the, every one of those doors that opens it. That's what's happening right now. You're watching this live unfold here. So first of all, two things. One, my fiance is listening and she just said derailer. That's what the word we're looking for. She's not even a triathlete, and I'm a moron, and she remembered it. So there you go. So that B, were those Cloud X's I saw?
They are not Cloud X's.
They're not Cloud X's.
They are Cloud Surfers, the OG.
The OG surfers. Okay.
They were the second pair of On shoes that I got, golly, a year and a half ago? A solid 18 months. Yeah, the summer. Yeah, almost 2 years. And I wore them for tempos and speed intervals, all of those workouts. And I got the... they were done. But the traction of a surfer is amazing. And you don't need much because the foot pedals have like a rough surface to help with the traction. But because I'm a heel striker, heel lander, my forefront hardly ever gets worn. That's all I need. So these have been the most amazing shoes for the ElliptiGo. I wear these on there. For the World Champs, I actually wore a new pair of surfers, but there's too much life left in these when all you have to do is stand on them. It's perfect.
So
surfers for the ElliptiGo for sure.
And something, I mean, no big deal. You just go, yeah, for the World Championships, I was training. Okay, all right. First of all, there's a World Championships for these things. Count me in, because okay. This is my fiance's worst nightmare. Before the show today, she just goes, please, you don't need to get into any more things. Stop. So first of all, okay, geez, I have so many questions. The one question I have is, so I'm the kind of person who I do so many different things. I don't like to go into things without a plan. Like when I go to the gym, I have my folder of my workouts and I rip through those. Every time I get on the bike, it's never, I'll ride it, see what happens. I have the structured workout. Your structured workouts, do you, like you were saying, do the 20-minute intervals today? Is there, like, through ElliptiGo, is there any kind of, like, structured training programs that you can get? Or do you just kind of do your running programs and have that translate to your workouts on that thing? Or how do you get your workouts?
Great question. So the guy I keep referencing, the sales guy for kind of all the colleges and sports teams, he was actually a collegiate runner himself. And so I have a feeling he has something to put into this. But on the ElliptiGo website, they give a whole slew of options for different workouts for increasing endurance, speed, power, efficiency to climb hills. And so in the beginning, I could kind of pick and choose from those. I also have a coach who was a runner with Zap and did some cross training on the ElliptiGo. He himself suffered through a couple of injuries and was actually the 2019 ElliptiGo world champion. So he kind of had an idea. I had the best coach to help me through that. So he gave me some really interesting workouts. They also just released live Zoom classes with Suzanne Davis. She is a triathlete out in California and an ElliptiGoer. And so she hosts, I think, like 3 days a week, live Zoom classes. So pretend like you're Peloton, but it's ElliptiGo. And everybody is able to do them. And of course, they range from speed, power, endurance, anything from hill climbs to sprints. But short answer, yes. Take a run workout, throw it on that. So got 2.5 minute intervals. I did 2.5 minute fartleks yesterday on the road running. I could do the same thing on this. No problem. Perfect. So
when you do, all right, first of all, I actually keep forgetting to ask you, Zap. Zap, you said it's an adult running club. Is that like a local thing or is that a national thing or what is that?
No, I should actually fill in. I'm going to turn on the light so it's so dark in here. Maybe that's better.
Hello.
ZAP stands for Zika and Pete. And they founded a group about 20-ish years ago to help collegiate runners in that transition from college to professional careers. And it's a great program. They've had so many athletes come, and it's a unique place because the athletes actually live on campus. And they train together in Blowing Rock, North Carolina.
I know that. I've been there before.
And they've had they've had a few different sponsors over the course of years, but they've been sponsored by On most recently. And in the summer, they host adult running camps, and they have a cute little, well, it's not little, it's a huge building that has like dorm rooms in it for adults to come and spend a couple of days to a week learning from their coaches, learning from the athletes, where you have great meals. You get to eat like an athlete, train like an athlete, and learn everything you can. And it's not meant for the amateur or the almost professional. It's meant for whoever really loves to run. And so I had the privilege of going back a couple summers ago and have connected with that team. So it's been really neat for sure, and they have that on connection too. So I feel like I'm being trained by one of the athletes. I've been to running camp there. We share the on love. So ZAP, Z-A-P, on endurance. Look them up. Go to running camp this summer. I'm sure they would love it.
I am going to look that up. And, as you said that, it reminded me, I had a professional triathlete on here. Her name's Alyssa. I forgot how to say her last name, damn it, Dela. But she went to, she was a professional runner before she got into triathlon, and that's where her camp was at Blowing Rock. Yeah. So that's,
well, there you go.
Yeah. 2 people now telling me about it. I gotta go now. Now I gotta go. So you're okay.
Yeah.
So we haven't even. Okay. So the World Championships. Tell me about that. I mean, what is there like a specific distance that it is? Are there different distances? How did you know about this? Fill us in. I mean, I have a million questions.
Yeah. So, like I said, ElliptiGo is worldwide. They have ElliptiGoers in Denmark and in Sweden and all sorts of places all over the world. And they've been around for, I think, 11-ish years. And so they've been hosting this World Championship for those who can qualify. What do you need to do to qualify? Well, you have to ride a 50-mile bike ride. Depending on your elevation gain, it has to be within a certain amount of time. So for me, I'm not in a space where I'm going to climb thousands of feet. I just can't do that here. And so I had to go 50 miles under 4 hours if I had like 1,200 or less feet of gain. So I was doing these rides so frequently when I was injured, and I thought, well, it's kind of fun. Like, maybe I should set a goal. Maybe I should try to do it. And then realized that if I did it, they were actually going to have a small, reduced version of the World Championship. Normally, folks all over the world come in if they've qualified, and it's kind of a big thing. And in the middle of the pandemic of what it was last year, they just weren't guaranteeing that. Obviously, we couldn't have internationals. But I thought, what the heck, I'll give it a shot. And so I rode a couple of 30-mile rides. I did maybe one 35-mile, which is a big deal. That's like 2.5 hours on the road.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Standing up, nonetheless. And then my good friend in Raleigh agreed to kind of help ride with me in case, heaven forbid, my tire go flat or there be an accident or something. Mm-hmm. And so I did that in August. I knew that I was pretty confident I could do it. I just didn't know how well I would be able to do it because I would be out there for upwards of 3.5 hours, 4 hours. That was the goal. So I did it in 3:42, I think, and decided, well, nothing else is happening this year. Might as well just go out to California. So you ride 50 miles. That translates to the World Championship ride, which is 11.69 miles. Sounds easy, right? Nope, not so much. You climb 4,200 feet from the bottom of a mountain to about midway to the mountain.
That is
4,200.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, holy cow, that's a lot.
And I came from a place where I would ride 50 miles and only gain 800 feet.
Yeah.
So I think roughly about 370 feet per mile was the gain. Basically means you're in gear 1 or 2, pedaling nonstop up a mountain. I set a goal. I didn't get it, but I finished. I think I struggled most with altitude. I don't know that I've ever been really above like 4,300 feet, period. And you finished this one around 5,200. I just remember feeling like so discombobulated, not necessarily like so fatigued like you feel at the end of mile 24 of a marathon. Mm-hmm. But at one point I had to step off the bike and I laid my head down and I imagined that I was in the field of poppies from The Wizard of Oz because I was so tired. But it's one of those things that I thought I'd be like one and done. Fine, I did it. But I've got a really bad fire to go back and to do it better.
So this is
that's goal for the year.
What part of California was it in?
So the company is actually out of Solana Beach, right north of San Diego. And so from Solana Beach, you kind of go northeast, and you climb Palomar Mountain. That's about all I know as far as geography and location. It's about an hour northeast of Solana Beach. And you just climb it.
So
and then you come down.
On the bike, on the bike, you have a computer, and you know your wattage and you know your FTP increases and you've all these metrics. Is there anything on the ElliptiGo that measures so you're getting better, or is it just you're going and just shifting gears and hoping for the best, or how does that work? Is there anything like that?
Yeah, I'm sure, because you probably have some kind of gizmo, right? Or
Yeah.
is it part of your bike?
No, I have a computer, so
No,
power
nothing.
pedals and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing.
No. My current model is solely powered by me. There's nothing like electric, computer, technology, nothing on there. I know some people have extra Garmin's or Wahoo's or something. They have a Garmin watch and all that connects, their heart rate, and they can tell power and outage. I have a cadence and speed sensor that I use when I'm on the trainer. But how I measure it is what's my RPM and what's my speed covering distance, and can I max that out, whether it's on the trainer, or if there's a certain route I take, can I get there before a certain amount of time? So as far as climbing that mountain, there needed to be nothing that needed to show that I was clearly plummeting in my effort going up.
So when you when you're riding out there in your neighborhood, you get funny looks. Do people what the hell is that thing? Do you get a lot of that?
Yeah, there's a ton of it. What? What is that? Or where's the seat? It definitely stops people in their tracks, but I'm always afraid too, because they aren't inexpensive. And so I'm somebody's going to start Googling it on their phones, and they're going to be like, oh, I need to chase after this girl. Of course, I always think worst case scenario. But I try to ride in spaces where I know other cyclists or walkers or runners will be, really as more of a way of promoting it. Hey, look at this. This is a whole lot of fun. Aren't you interested? And questionable looks, or hey, what is that? Tell me more.
Yeah.
And I don't think you'll meet an ElliptiGoer that won't stop dead in their tracks to share about it. I feel like when you get on one and you love it, all you want to do is talk about it. So
when you're riding,
are
you're balancing then? It's not you're completely you're on two wheels. Mm-hmm. See, I had a misconception of what this thing was. That's why I didn't want to look it up. I wanted to learn about this, genuinely on the fly here. So I was completely wrong. I thought it was two wheels on the back. You know what I had in mind? I had that thing where you see them going like this. You know what I mean? They're kind of thrusting. Yeah, I had that thing in my mind. Yeah.
No, it is not. We won't even mention that. Those models can sometimes look like a tricycle too, and so you have more stability either on the front or the back.
Yeah.
But those, you think of it like a stroller or some kind of buggy or some kind of cart. It's really hard to maneuver if you've got two and then one, unless you've got some kind of crazy motorcycle, whatever. But to be a self-propelled contraption, there's no way you could have that offset. You couldn't have two wheels and then one, or one and two. I don't think it would work. It's strictly balance. It's core. I'd say it's more core than it is upper body, though there is a tendency to kind of get really tense up top. But I I used to think the long stride was a whole lot easier and that I'd never be able to do just a regular stand-up bike, but I actually have an M-Sub, a mountain stand-up bike that I ride too, and it rides just like a bicycle would. So that same pedaling action, imagine you're on your bike and you're trying to go up a hill, you stand up to gain more power. That's exactly what the M-Sub is.
Oh,
you just
okay.
Don't get to sit down when you get to the top.
Right.
So there is a difference between the long stride. The long stride takes a little bit more to balance, but it's equally proportionate. And when you're riding it on the road, it's kind of like you get a kick start and you hop up and then you just start pedaling and then you go. It's just part of it. You just go.
So the championships were in California. Are they always in California? It never moves?
Yes, they've always been out there. I think it's one of those things that, like, climbing Palomar is not ever easy. And I got a whole slew, like, all the words, like, horrible, purely exhausting, relentless, like, never-ending, like, any bad word of an experience you could come up with. I feel like everybody was saying this is what it was going to be like. I was like, it can't be that bad. I've done bad things before. No, but seriously, the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life, and I don't know if I told you this, I birthed 2 children, nothing in comparison. That by far was the hardest thing, and somehow you want to go back. Yeah, so it's always out there. It's always that same climb. It's a pretty popular ascent for cyclists, particularly in that side of the country. So if you meet a cyclist who likes to adventure, do a lot of climbs, that's probably going to be one that they talk about. I don't know the ins and outs of what makes it a great one, other than I think it's a 7% grade from point A to B where we go. You can keep going up to the tippy top, but I don't think I want to do that.
How long does that take you? How long did the race take you?
All sorts of people. For me, it took like 2 hours and 15 minutes. My goal was 1:55. So I had reason to believe I'd built up the fitness, but I also did not train on hilly terrain and had no clue what altitude was going to feel like. So still very respectable. I finished. I think some of the winning times are like around 1:30 for the women and maybe like low 1-teens for the men. But this past year, back in October, Molly Seidel won the women's side of it. So she had just gotten with the Olympic trial team back in February, and then she showed up and she did it with such ease and grace. Like, she just coasted up the mountain. If you're faster, you actually start behind everybody else. That way everybody else kind of finishes all at the same time. And I remember her coming by me like she was like picking up fruit in the produce aisle, like, just a morning ride.
Hey, how you doing? Yeah.
I can't breathe anymore. Yeah, but it's such a cool thing, and probably won't ever be televised, but it's a rite of passage to be able to be like, I climbed Palomar Mountain.
I was going to ask you, when you qualified, how did they, because I know you said it was 4 hours or under 4 hours, 50 miles in under 4 hours, for you at least. How do you prove it on like a Strava or like a Garmin, or how do you prove that you did it? You know, it seems like it'd be easy to cheat, but obviously, you know, you don't want to be a jerk and do that.
Right. And then I think if you did it, like, who wants to cheat to go through the torture of climbing Palomar? I don't know.
Right.
But I had my friend ride with me who works for the company. He was going to vouch for me if my watch died. I think I also started Strava because it's it's longer than a marathon.
Yeah.
Right? I guess essentially my marathon time was about the same, but I didn't want anything to go wrong. So you send a message that, hey, I'm about to start my ride. You go for your ride, you record it, you screenshot it, you Strava save it, and you text them when you're done. I'm done with my ride, and then there you have it. So
wow.
Hopefully I'll be texting them sometime really soon with another qualifying time.
And what time of year are the championships?
End of October.
End of
So
October.
I think that last weekend, October 24, I think might be the day. It's a Saturday. And it's kind of the culmination, too, of the year-long program that the Global ElliptiGo Rider Club does. There's a little subset group of riders, a kind of a membership group, and they have challenges every month throughout the year. For example, May, you ride every day in May, and you ride with a partner to accumulate the mileage per day. So today I rode 20 miles, hoping my partner's going to ride 10. We're going to knock off May 30th in our calendar. And it's just kind of silly challenges, but enough to keep you motivated. So I'm on a streak now of 42 days of riding my ElliptiGo at least 2 miles a day.
Who's your partner?
Her name is Dora, and she is 55. She's a data analyst from California, I believe. And so I'm doing my rides early in the morning, and she's doing them at like 9 and 10 o'clock at night, so I'm like already in bed. But it's really neat. It's been a way to connect me with somebody I never would, ever meet in real life. So it's been fun to say, hey, Dora, how are you doing? I rode this many miles. If you get this many, we'll get this day done. Just kind of fun and games, a little competitive spirit when you can do it. But that same weekend in October when they have the World Championship, folks that can gather at all of this and kind of have a party and do a big ride all together. I hope that'll happen this year. It didn't last year because of restrictions and such in California, but I don't know, maybe that'll change by then this time.
Fingers crossed. Now, I was going to ask you with the championships, is there, with triathlon or running or any of these sports, there's age groups or, different wave starts and all that kind of stuff. I know you mentioned real briefly, the faster people start a little bit later, so there's like a timed, everyone finishes at the end together. So when you go to that championship, are there age groups or is there any kind of like wave starts? I know, you'll go, I guess answer that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you're on your own to kind of determine when you need to start. There's 3 starting groups. One is if you think you'll finish past 2 to 2.5 hours. The next one goes with 1:45 to 2 hours, and then the last one is the elite wave start. And so that's really your like 1:15s to 1:40-ish. Group, and it's really just female and male by the time you get to the end. So I think out of the group I was maybe like 6th female, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
It doesn't mean a whole lot to all the people. I can't remember how many people were there. I was just really thrilled that I finished. Bummed I didn't hit my goal, but I had nothing to compare it to, and so I was just really proud that I had taken on something so recently, decided to hit it as hard as I could, make some outlandish idea. And when I even rode the qualifying time, my friend was like, well, I knew you would ride, but like I didn't realize you'd want to go to the World Championships. Well, why did I ride it for then?
Yeah, well, yeah.
So, and that might be different if the more people they have, but I think it's just a separate between male and female. They do long strides up the mountain, and then I think there's a category for the stand-up bikes. I keep pointing that way because the other one I have is in the room.
Oh, okay. I thought you were pointing at my bike behind me.
I think it's harder. I think it's harder to ride one of those. I don't know. It's hard, period. So they break those 2 categories down, but otherwise, not age group. I think the oldest man there might have been like 70, and Molly might have been the youngest. The other gal that came in second to her, Ashley Heller, is a pro Spartan. Their ages might be really similar. So you kind of really cover the whole gamut of individuals and people that just love to do it, love the competition, love the challenge. because it's not an easy feat by any means.
Yeah, what intrigues me most about this, I think, is like for instance, my friend is thinking about moving down here to Texas, and I used to play hockey with him, and like I'm a big hockey guy, and if I wanted, but I can't like devote my time to playing hockey because I'm training constantly for triathlon, so it's like it goes back to in the beginning what I said. I want to live a million different kinds of lives. There's so many different things I want to do, but with this, it's like it just falls into line with everything that you do. Like you said, that Gail is like an elite Spartan, an Olympic runner. All these, it just kind of makes sense and it just adds variety to the if you're a runner, the one constant to that sport is running, or triathlon, just constantly doing the three sports. It kind of adds that fourth element to it. I think that's what's so intriguing, and it's so new, right? I mean, it hasn't been along for very long, right? Do you know how long it's been around for?
I hope I don't watch any of this. I'm thinking like 11, 12 years. So I would say it's incredibly new. And the concept, and I feel like it's just getting into certain spaces.
Yeah.
I only know of like 2 people in Rock Hill. There are a couple more in Charlotte and throughout, but it's really heavy in coastal regions, like the coast of California, and then down in Florida. That's where a lot of people are. And then some people that have lots of cool bike trails. We don't have any of those here.
Yeah.
We're like in the Virginia area or Maryland. And so I feel like it'll keep growing, just when people become aware of it and wanting to try something new. Last year was a huge year because people were interested in new things that didn't involve, being in spaces that you couldn't get to.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was moving outside. So ElliptiGo is coming on the scene a little bit more. So I don't know. I love that it is part of what I do, and it's not in addition to. Like, I don't feel like I'm ever torn necessarily. There are days where I'm like, I'm supposed to run, but I really want to ride the bike. But me riding the bike is only going to make me a better runner. And it's healthier runner at that too. So I don't feel like I have to choose one or the other. And it's also super duper fun.
What?
I feel like it's new every time that I get on. Like, oh, here's a new experience. I'm going to learn how to pedal with one hand,
Yeah. Well, at the beginning of this,
all the fun things you can do.
At the beginning of this, I know you didn't hear it, but I play a little jingle, and there's like a welcome screen and all that. But the jingle says, get ready to get inspired. This is the Go4TheGoldy podcast, and my goal is to inspire others that watch this and say, oh wow, she got into this later in life. There's a world championships for this. I didn't know this thing existed, but now you inspired me. You inspired the host of this show today. I am very, very excited. Yeah, we're moving to a new spot, a 2-bedroom apartment in a couple weeks, and the point of it was so I could have like my own room. I'm in the corner of my bedroom right now, so like this little cove where my bike is right here. I'm just kind of like crammed in there, but in the chat on the side here, Jenny said it looks like we're going to need more space, and I responded, my fiance, and I said, good thing we're moving to a 2-bedroom apartment because I think we might have to make room because I'm pretty jacked up about this right now. I'm gonna have a very long, hard conversation about budgeting for this thing.
So there's a couple of different options. What I would first recommend you do is to go to ElliptiGo, and they have a little toggle where you can do a test ride, and so you can see if there's somebody in the area, like an ElliptiGo enthusiast is what they call them, and they generally have bikes that you can test out so that you aren't flying blindly or have no clue what you're getting into. And usually they might would have like a long stride version, maybe a stand-up version. But if you have your own road bike, I would say go for the long stride. It's unique and different enough, but similar enough, like that you wouldn't say, well, I have this bike and this bike too, but this one just doesn't have a seat. The long stride is so helpful for the runner specific. So check out the website, find a test rider, or maybe a local space that would carry them, And then if you can't do that and you just go for it, I do know that they offer like a 30-day ride and try, or I forget the wording of it, because sometimes it just isn't right. Or you realize, well, I don't have the space to store it or a place to ride it. But there is some financing options too, which are always great. So let me know if you end up getting totally sold into it.
Well, in every show, what I like to do is in the notes afterwards, like I'll put all your social media and stuff in the notes, but if you could send me the links for, the official website and everything that you were just talking about too, so anybody listening to this can, provide us the roadmap, so they can go to it. And, in the future when you're working for them and, you're the CEO and, but
super great people. Like they really are. It's one of those things like where people on a personal level and like the high ups of the company, and they're just really awesome, enthusiastic individuals. So yeah, maybe one day.
I love it. Well, I mean, I figured I'm in the DFW area, Dallas Fort Worth, so. I mean, there's basically nothing that's not here, so there's probably one around here that I could check out. So I'll have to look into that for sure. But what I'll say, I mean, we're coming up on an hour and a half, which is crazy because I mean, I could talk to you for the next like 5 hours about this, but yeah. But I guess the last thing, I always like to say is there anything, any advice that you might want to give to anyone that like wants to get started in this, or just about any of the struggles that you've had with in your past, or anything? The floor is yours. Anything that we didn't cover, it's all you.
Yeah, wow, that's an open floor. I try to do things, and I like to think of others, and I like to think of myself, and am I doing what's best for myself? And am I enjoying it? And I kind of like to frame my days around that. Like, is what I'm doing, inspiring? Is it encouraging to myself? Is it inspiring, encouraging to other people? Is it building other people up? Is it bringing other people joy? Is it building me up? Is it bringing me joy? And, am I doing it with a big picture in mind? Like, that I've been given a body, I've been blessed by God, given a body, given a desire to want to move, and I have the resources to do that. Sure, it might only involve running shoes. You don't need a fancy watch or even a fancy bike, but I have the ability to move, and so I wanted to capitalize on that. And so I would just encourage other people to capitalize on what we've been given. Use the resources that we've been given. Steward them well. In church, we kind of talk about stewarding our money, but I really think that, outside of the Christian and believer world, like we have a life that we need to steward well. So spend our energy well, spend our time well, and do what fuels us. And so I have been able to find that through teaching Spanish and being active and playing music. And I don't ever feel that's taking anything away from me as a person. It only is fueling me and building me up, and then hopefully inspiring other people around me. And so perspective of joy, I think if you look at my Instagram feed, it's an accountability tool for me, because am I expressing that I'm not always just happy? Things can make me very not happy a lot of times, but is there a joy that underlines it? Do I have hope for tomorrow? All of those things. To do what fuels you best and steward your time and your energy well, however that looks. And have fun, enjoy doing it, for sure. That's it. There we go. Bam. Mic drop.
I know I put you on the spot, but you sound like you rehearsed that. That was incredible. Good work. Well, I want to just say, seriously, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. It was nice to talk with you. Like everyone else, this is the first time that we've ever talk to each other. I mean, we've messaged back and forth a couple times, but I'm really looking forward to following all your progress with everything that you have going on. And you have a great, inspiring story. And obviously, your Instagram, I follow you, and it's inspiring stuff there. So I'll put all that in the notes. And just looking forward to seeing your progress and seeing you crush that goal 155 at the next World Championships. Let's go.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for giving me the chance to be on, and congratulations to you. You've got some solid training months ahead too, so go knock it out and go to Bermuda. Like, of course, who would say no to that?
Well, that is in October, so maybe we'll just make a diversion right afterwards to California for those World Championships. You might see me there.
Come on, do it. That's where we'll meet.
That's right.
I'll race you to the top.
That's the goal. I love it. Let's do it. All right, challenge accepted.
Awesome.
All right, well, have a great night.
Well, thanks again.
Absolutely.